Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report at Media Row. Even though the Raiders aren't in the Super Bowl, fingers crossed for next season, the Chat Sports team here is still covering, and there is a lot to talk about. So coming up on today's show, I had the opportunity to sit down and speak with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler and talk to him about some of the things that he's hearing around the NFL and around the Las Vegas Raiders. And one of the things that he noted was that there is a chance that Las Vegas goes up and trades for LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels. So coming up here on today's show is I'm going to tell you what Fowler had to say in a recent report. And then on top of that, let's go look at 4 trades that the Silver and Black could potentially do to try to go up and get their man. Because if they do trade up, from what I am being told, it will be for Jayden Daniels and will be for Jayden Daniels only. All right, so let's look at what Fowler had to say here in a recent quote. He said, "The Las Vegas Raiders, at 13, might be a team to watch. New coach Antonio Pierce is a big fan of Daniels from their days together at Arizona State, and word is that Pierce evaluated offensive coordinators with loose possibility of Daniels in mind. People around the league are keeping an eye on the Minnesota Vikings at number 11, too. They did a lot of quarterback homework last offseason and could eventually target one high in the draft, and free agent Kirk Cousins' future in Minnesota is uncertain. But moving from number 11 into the top 3 would cost GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah a ton of draft capital." So bottom line here is this. From what I have sat down and I talked with Fowler, and then Fowler's earlier report on ESPN was around Jayden Daniels. There's a lot of chatter here at Media Row, just everyone saying like, yeah, Antonio Pierce wants his guy, AP wants his guy, and they're going to try to do everything in their power to go out and get him. Now, obviously, it's not easier said than done, right? Like, there's going to be teams that are looking for quarterback talent, and I'm not saying that Daniels is going to force his way to the Raiders, but from some of the conversations I've had, it sounds like AP and Daniels are like, hey, man, let's really make this thing work. But you're looking at the Heisman Trophy winner who had an incredible season with the Tigers this past year, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, really showed that he can get better and better and better, right? I mean, from like that first year that he was with the Sun Devils to where he is at now, he's a totally different quarterback, good deep ball, can use his legs, and his legs is what's really excites me. Yes, I am scared of the nimble build that he is, but anytime you have a quarterback that can rush for over 1,000 yards, and I had the opportunity to speak to a few Raiders players today, and they love the idea of potentially bringing in Jayden Daniels to the Silver and Black. So this is a show which is all about y'all. Give me a yes, or I want you to give me a no. This will be the pinned comment on today's show, which means you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. Should the Las Vegas Raiders trade up for Jayden Daniels? Give me a yes, or I want you to give me a no. My answer is this. If you're going to be AP, if you're going to be the Raiders and you're going to be aggressive, yeah, like let's get aggressive. Let's go up and get your guy. Is it going to cost you a lot? Yeah, but if he ends up turning out to be that franchise quarterback that the Raiders need, then it's absolutely positively worth it. I'm not saying you trade Crosby. You're not trading Crosby. You're probably not going to trade Devontae Adams either, but it's going to cost you multiple picks in order to do that, and maybe the only way to do it is to trade up to one. But a man can dream, Kenny. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to show you some trade ideas that I have constructed, and from talking to some people here, I was throwing out a bunch of trade ideas, and that's part of what we do here, and it was like, yeah, that'd probably be enough, or no, that wouldn't be enough. So I got 4 trade ideas coming up here for Jayden Daniels, because if the Raiders trade up for a quarterback, it will not be for Caleb Williams. It will not be for Drake May. It will be for the LSU quarterback that just won the Heisman. So we'll get into that, but man, shout out to today's sponsor, Game Time. If anybody, if you're out in a city like Las Vegas, if you're at a city in Dallas and you're looking for last-minute tickets and the lowest price guaranteed, Game Time is the perfect app for you. So download the Game Time app today, create an account. Use code RaidersChat for $20 off your first purchase. Also, the big game is, well, right around the corner. Use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game. Only valid for the big game. This offer is available to all users, not just new ones. You can get some extra food and drinks with the savings to make the big game a little bit more enjoyable. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code RaidersChat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And if you're going to go to the big game, use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game. Only valid for the big game. This offer is available to all users, not just new ones. All right, so since we broke down that the Raiders want to have this idea of trading up for Jayden Daniels, that's absolutely on the table. Not saying it's going to happen, but the Raiders are going to try to do it. So now, how do you get up there? You got to try to go up to pick one. And we're going to go through and look at 4 different trade ideas that Las Vegas could potentially do to try to get up and get their guy at Jayden Daniels. So the first trade that I got here is with the Chicago Bears, and it's a first-round pick. Chicago gets your picks 13, 44, 77 this year, and then in 2025 you get a first, a second, and a fourth. And I talked to somebody that said it might actually include 2 starting players, not just one. And when I say 2 starting players, it's players of the caliber of a Jacoby Myers, players of a caliber of a Malcolm Kuntz, of a Dylan Parham, per se. Like, it's going to be players that are legitimate starters on this team, and that's what I'm hearing. So why would the Raiders want to trade up to number 1? Well, you might think that the only way that you're going to be able to get Jayden is by going up to 1. Caleb Williams doesn't want to play for the Bears, and Chicago tries to trade out of that number 1 pick. Could be an opportunity, or the Bears just don't love any of the other quarterback options. If Caleb Williams and his brass tell Chicago, hey, I want to play for the Commanders, I want to go with Cliff Kingsbury at number 2, then if you're Chicago, like, do you stick with Justin Fields, or do you really want to go with Jayden Daniels, and he might not even want to be on your team? So the trade, again, to try to get up there with Chicago is 13, 44, 77, a first, a second, a fourth next year, and then 2 starting caliber players. Is it a lot? Yeah, but if it's the way you got to get your guy, then you got to go get your guy. All right, let's talk about this next scenario here. The Raiders trading up to pick number 2. And in this one, some of y'all are probably like, well, the Commanders aren't going to trade with the Raiders because they're going to go up and they're going to get Caleb Williams, right? And I 100% agree. So why exactly would the Commanders trade back with the Raiders? Well, here's the reason. Because, let's face it, the Commanders, they're not going to trade this pick to the Raiders. So this entire situation is based off of Chicago trading back with Washington. Commanders go up to number 1. Chicago knows that maybe they don't love Jayden Daniels, or maybe they don't love Drake May, and they're going to potentially just stick with Justin Fields. So if you're the Raiders and you know that, you pick up the phone, you call Chicago, and you say, all right, like, let's get this thing running. We're going to trade up to number 2. So if you're wondering, all right, Mitch, how much is it going to cost for you to get up to number 2? It's still going to be a hefty price tag. And at the end of the day, this is going to be a draft that's going to cost a lot if you're going to go up and get your QB because of how highly regarded these quarterbacks are, whether you are a Drake May guy, whether you are a Jayden Daniels fan, or whether you're a Caleb Williams fan. Like, these are quarterbacks that teams are going to be looking for. So the deal that I went out and talked to people about was 13, 44, and 77, a first and a third round pick in next year's draft, and then a starting caliber player. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Las Vegas ends up having to do and what the Bears would have to end up doing. But again, I know it says trade idea number 2, and this is going up to pick 2, but the entire thing is built on the Commanders going up to number 1, Chicago not wanting to take Jayden Daniels or Drake May. The Raiders understand that. They see their opportunity, and then they move up. If you're looking for Raiders videos every single day, 366 this year, and we're going to be covering everything around the draft, trades, free agencies, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. There's a reason why we have over 164,000 subscribers here. We're the #1 most watched Raiders channel. Watch it for a week. If you don't like it, you can keep it moving, right? Let's go to trade number 3 here, and this is the one where you got to move up to number 3. And this is the scenario where I would love for the silver and black to be able to get in this situation. Now, why would the Raiders trade up to number 3? There has been reports out there the Patriots aren't a lock to draft a quarterback at 3, and I even talked to a few NFL insiders around here that said there's a chance that they have been showing some interest in Justin Fields and could end up drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., who, according to many, is the best player in this year's draft. And if you know that, where they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., or if they're like going to roll with Justin Fields, could the Raiders potentially then trade up, get their guy in Jayden Daniels? Maybe the Patriots don't want Jayden in their offense. Maybe they would rather roll with a Justin Fields. You can trade a second-round pick for him, and then the New England Patriots have a little bit more flex and ability to add that talented receiver to their core. So in terms of what it would cost to get up to number 3, Raiders get pick number 3. New England gets your 13 and 44, so your first and your second round pick this year, first round pick next year, and then a starting caliber player. The starting caliber player, again, it is a legit player that they would be able to add to their team and would be a starter for the Raiders and a starter for New England. Let's go to trade up to number 4 now, and some of y'all are like, well, how is Jayden going to be there? I thought we've been talking that all these quarterbacks, they're going to be gone. Well, in this scenario, that means one of the top 3 teams obviously didn't end up taking a QB, because I'm telling you, Marvin Harrison Jr. is arguably the most talented player in this entire draft, like from a ranking standpoint. And if Daniels makes it out of the top 3, I might be willing to bet my house that the Raiders trade up to number 4 and they make this happen. The Cardinals, could see them wanting to trade back to just stock up on some extra draft capital. And if you're Las Vegas and you're going to contemplate potentially trading up, into 1, 2, 3, and if Daniels slides down to number 4, I'm telling you right now, Antonio Pierce is picking up that phone and they're going to make it happen. So the trade that would end up going down is this, and the reason why it is still kind of costly is because of demand, right? If Daniels is there at 4, there's going to be multiple teams that are probably trying to get that pick. If you're the Raiders, you can't have a Cliff Kingsbury situation where, you got to pay up, and you got to be willing to make that extra pay. So it's a first, second, and a third this year, and then a second-round pick in 2025 is what I believe it would have cost for the Raiders to go up to number 4. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for always tuning into the Raiders Report. We are live. I was hoping to be able to go live. Our connection's a little bit spotty, but we are going to be live on Sunday for the big game to stay up to date on all things going on around the Raiders. I've been putting out updates on Twitter and on Instagram, so please give us a follow at Mitchell Renz 365, and if you want to come party with Jeremy Chuggs and I on Sunday, remember, it is chatsports.com/big game. Reserve your tickets now. I'll admit we might be almost sold out, so if you could, that link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments, down in the description. We're going to be at the Ahern showroom. It's going to be lit. I was just there today. It is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So chatsports.com/big game. Hope to see you there.